Good morning. Okay. Welcome to Coffee Chats. I'm Jennifer. I'm a clinician, OCD specialist, licensed in Colorado, Montana, and Kansas. I'm a part of the private practice in Focus Counseling, which is located in Lakewood, Colorado. But welcome to our next coffee chat. So before I start making the coffee for our chat, we're gonna chat about today just how in treatment, especially OCD treatment, but a lot of mental health treatments, symptoms, quote unquote, things can get worse before they get better. So I thought we could have a chat this wonderful morning about how our mental health, when we enter treatment, and our symptomology can get worse before it gets better. So let's start by making some coffee. Today we're gonna chat about the beginning of treatment and how symptoms can worsen or intensify while you're beginning treatment. So I think that this piece of knowledge, information is becoming more well known, or I've been hearing a lot of my clients talk more about it in their way of sort of accepting what they're experiencing or processing what they're experiencing. I'll hear them make a comment such as I know it's supposed to get worse before it gets better, but I also still feel that even though there's that level of acceptance, it's still hard to accept that things are getting worse when I've been hoping and I'm acting in to get them better. And so I wanted to just chat a little bit about this occurrence because it does happen. That interruption, my phone ran out of storage, so I had to clear up some storage so we could continue this recording. So as I was saying, this occurrence does happen. And the reason that it happens is because, especially with OCD, and I'm going to primarily talk about this occurrence happening in conjunction with OCD and ERP treatment because that's what I specialize in. So I see it because for decades, even a client will present to treatment because they're ready, or they've just found out that they're struggling with OCD and that there is treatment available. So I lost my train of thought. Okay, let me start over. So clients that come to OCD and ERP treatment typically, like I've shared before or you've seen in a social media post, will struggle with OCD symptoms on average from 14 to 17 years. That's a long time. That's a long time also for our brain to recognize this happens, or I have this thought, or I have this feeling, and I need to do this to make myself feel better. The part of this that makes me feel better is the compulsion. And so when we begin treatment and we start really focusing on the fears and the thoughts, symptoms intensify. The intrusive thoughts become more persistent, more severe. The anxiety feels higher. And it's because for, on average, those 14 to 17 years, we've been reinforcing the cycle with compulsions. We've also been doing our darndest to avoid intrusive thoughts because they make us feel so uncomfortable. And that's obviously what ERP treatment is all about, is stopping the compulsions and leaning in to the fear, to the intrusive thought, the obsessive thought. That is what ERP treatment's all about. So because we're giving the symptoms more appropriate attention and treating them, they naturally ramp up because they're almost like, whoa, like you're paying attention to me, but not in the way that I like. And so that happens because for, like I said, all those years, it was compulsions to avoid it, to make myself feel better right this second, or anything else, just because I don't like this feeling and I don't want to feel this way. So I'm going to do anything and everything that I can to not feel this way. So those are usually what I see when a client begins treatment, and we talk about it just to try to prepare the client for when that moment hits. But as much preparing as I try to do in my sessions, when it happens, it's still jarring because I'm coming to you, Jenny, or therapist, to feel better. And I really do not feel better right now. What's going on? And I would say like a couple of things, 3 things I usually commonly see when this comes up is, and we'll talk a little bit about all of them, is 1, the feeling of overwhelm. 2, the feeling that like, I want to quit, this is too hard, or the doubt of just like, I don't think that this is actually the right treatment because I'm not feeling better. So the desire to quit. And then also trust with the therapist is brought into question, or doubt. Can I truly trust that you know what you're doing, because I'm not feeling better? And OCD plays these nasty tricks, and like we've talked about before, like OCD is the doubt disorder. It likes to plant all the doubt with anything and everything. And that's what happens with these 3 things. That when, the symptomology increases because we're drawing attention to it, doubt seeps in that this is too much, you can't handle it, I don't know what to do, or this isn't the right treatment for me, this is wrong, I want to quit, or this is too hard. And like I said, the trust component that like, Jenny, do you really know what you're doing? Because I don't feel better, right? And like how to address all of those when they do come up, because they will. How to address all of those when they do come up with your therapist, because there's so many other aspects. I talk about this also in sort of preparation to help clients like kind of understand that like this occurrence in the back of our head, we know can happen, right? Like my clients phrase it very like almost smoothly to me that things will get worse before they get better. But when they get worse, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot, this is too much. Why do I feel this way? Is this right? Should something else be happening? And it's in that moment or after that moment, usually with my clients, I see it after we get over this road bump where they're like, yeah, I get what you're talking about now, Jenny, when you said that like things could get worse before they get better. And it's because it doesn't really sink in. Like, it's almost like we know it on like a subconscious level, but we don't fully understand what it means until we go through it. It's one of those things, right? Like, we don't know until we actually go through it. So, but, I mean, the feeling of overwhelm, this is where it's really important to pair with your OCD specialist. I usually encourage my clients that like, if and when this moment happens, like, feel free to reach out to me. We can do an extra session if you want to, if that would be helpful, just to kind of reinforce like some of the techniques and the skills and exposures that we're working on. Because that's really what's going to help, is when that feeling of overwhelm pops in. It's really important to lean into the ERP concepts, also mindfulness and grounding techniques to help balance ourselves, so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Or it might feel overwhelming, but I have a plan and I know how to act. So that's something that I think is really helpful for clients, is me offering, one, the prep ahead of time. This could happen. Watch out for it. If and when it does, this is what I want you to do. And also, you're more than welcome to like reach out to me if we need an extra session this week, next week, when and if it happens. Because like, that's what I'm here for. I want to support you. And I know that these moments can happen and they can be really challenging, and I want you to succeed. And we're a team. We're going through this together. So, but I mean, it does boil back to, there is no unfortunate magic spell or trick that if it happens here, like, this is going to make everything all better. I wish that I had that, but I don't. It's about really digging into the techniques that you talk about in ERP. I incorporate ERP, acceptance and commitment therapy, mindfulness, CBT. I combine all of that together for some balance for my clients. And so it's about leaning into the techniques, but also knowing like what technique to use when, because in mindfulness and acceptance and commitment therapy and CBT, there can be a lot of reassurance in some of those techniques, which we know is not helpful for OCD. And so that's what I mean by like knowing what technique I can use when. And that's also why it could be helpful to have an extra session with your therapist if and when this occurrence happens. So I would say that the next piece of feeling like I want to quit because this isn't the right treatment for me, or it's too hard. Growth is difficult. Growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. And that's what's happening when you go into ERP treatment, is that change is happening. You are changing how you respond to really scary thoughts, really triggering thoughts and environments and situations. We're changing how we interact, how we engage with those thoughts. So I would say that naturally the treatment is hard. It is hard because it's not an easy, quick fix. And so that makes it difficult. But I would also like to encourage that don't quit. Don't quit. You've already struggled and suffered and experienced so much distress from your OCD for however many years, that you deserve to live the life that you want to live. And once again, lean on your therapist. I want to quit. Okay, let's talk about some motivational components, right? I have to do I do a lot of motivational, the technique's actually called motivational interviewing with my clients, because these ebbs and flows can happen naturally during any point in treatment, of just sort of refocusing on like, why are we doing this really hard thing? Because the results aren't instant. They're not. They do take time. And I tell my clients, ERP is not a quick fix. It is a long game. Everything that we do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, we will see the effects start to grow in the future, right? We will see those effects in a month, in 3 weeks. We'll start to recognize, because the techniques are starting to settle in. So I do a lot of motivational interviewing when the feeling of wanting to quit comes up, because a lot of the times this is really hard, and I don't know why I want to do something that is this hard and scary. And so it's about making space in the therapy room to explore why we're actually doing this, why we're choosing to do something really difficult, and what we want the end game to look like, because that's what we're striving for. That's our treatment goal. So there's that component. And then the last component I wanted to kind of touch on is trust. Trust is the last component that I want to talk about in today's coffee chat, because as I spoke a little bit in the video earlier this month on finding a therapist and consultations, trust with the therapist that you're working with is huge, and especially in ERP treatment, because ERP treatment is about facing fears. It's about facing the really scary thoughts. It's about facing the doubt. And so there has to be a level of trust that the therapist I'm working with has this experience, has the knowledge, knows how to address what's coming up for me to help guide me, and walk alongside me and support me. But I know that what brings us into therapy is I want to feel better. And whatever better more specifically looks like for you, but I want to feel better. And when I don't start feeling better, do you know what you're doing? Do you know how to help me, right? The trust in your therapist is brought to question. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And I would say that this tags a little bit to the motivational interviewing that I was just talking about with clients is like, how can I let the client know how I'm seeing their treatment to get them to their goals, to live the life that they're envisioning, to get them to the better. How can I help them understand that I am working towards that? And it's a rebuilding trust moment between the client and the clinician, because the client is having a more survival reaction when symptomology starts to increase. They're having a survival reaction. I want to feel better. I'm not feeling better, and it's your fault, or I don't want to do this anymore. It's a very natural reaction, right? So it's about helping the client understand again why we're doing what we're doing, what's the goal of what we're doing, and also how to start rebuilding that trust within the therapeutic bond. So those are like the three bigger components that I typically see a lot when the occurrence of it's going to get worse before it gets better happens. But I'd be interested to know like what else you've experienced for yourself, or if you're a clinician in the field, what you've experienced with a client, of like some other elements that might come up because of it's gonna get worse before it gets better. So drop me a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And have a fabulous day. Enjoy the end of summer, and I hope you have a great month, and I will see you in September. Cheers.